All right, and welcome everybody. Apologies for the delay. There was some miscommunication with when the games were actually starting, but we are getting into First Champion Select. My name is Jeff, and I am going to be your commentator today. On the left, we have SNHU going against our very own UAlbany. Just a reminder that this is a best 2 out of 3 match in Fearless Draft, so anything that gets picked in this first game will be banned for the remainder of the series. Alright, as we wait on the first bans. Alright, and here we go. Draft has started. SNHU on the blue side. Looks like we are going to be taking Xerath out of the equation on ban 1. Not wanting to deal with any sort of that range pressure. Talia will be the quick answer. Mid lane bans flying left and right. It's going to be interesting to see what the sort of series meta is going to shape up for this, because we can talk about like what is good and what is bad, but really just kind of comes down to what you are comfortable with at the end of the day. Ashe being taken out, very strong ADC in the current meta, followed closely by Mel. It's going to be very interesting to see what picks people prioritize, because like I said, it is Fearless Draft, so you do want to take some power picks right off the rip, but you don't necessarily want to take everything strong or everything you're good off the board, so that you can actually have some depth in the series. J4 and Akali will be our final bans. Volibear picked up first at SNHU, most likely going into that jungle. Recently nerfed, but not too big of a nerf, so still pretty strong. Really looking forward to see what sort of build path we're going to be going, because it does have some flexibility in terms of his items. UAlbany follows it up with a Jinx pick, prioritizing getting that comfort on their AD carry. Jinx, very strong hyper carry in the late game, does have some struggles early on because they are some pretty immobile, but with a good amount of team play can get going pretty fast. Are they going to pick their support or answer the jungle perhaps? Udyrs looks like it's going to be potentially a jungle answer. That can flex to maybe the top lane if need be, but most likely going to be seeing jungle play. Misfortune hover. Let's see if it's locked in. All right, Misfortune. A bit more of a lane dominant character. If they are able to line up those juicy double taps off of the minion wave, can really put pressure onto this Jinx that does not have a lot of answers in terms of like mobility and things like that. But of course, bot lane is really dependent on what sort of support you are going to draft to enable your AD carry. So we'll see if they're going to pick that up here, or maybe leave it into the second round. Yone. Okay, Yone, very strong character, has been for a while. Adds a lot of damage, a lot of team fight CC. Could go melee, into the mid or top, so we'll see where that ends up. UAlbany with their last pick of the first pick round. Deliberating. Going to pick up Morgana. Alright, so traditionally is a support, but I have seen some flex play into the mid lane recently, so also kind of still potentially hiding where they want characters to go. Morgana, not necessarily the best character into Misfortune, is able to kind of contest her push a little bit more, but doesn't really have a good answer to Morgana, or to Misfortune, just kind of pressuring the Jinx. Gonna ban out the Seraphine, very strong support, adds a lot of utility to the team. Followed by the Aatrox, Garen, and the Darius. Wow, we just blazed through that second pick phase. And UAlbany gets fourth pick. So judging by the bans, it seems like UAlbany thinks that Yone is indeed going into the mid lane. Are they going to leave their top lane for counter pick? Looks like it. Malzahar locked in. So that's a Malzahar versus Yone mid. Malzahar very good at neutralizing these lanes, just kind of, vomiting his spells onto the minion wave to get that push in, making sure the Yone is kind of stuck there if he doesn't want to lose a bunch of golden experience. So as long as he is able to stay safe and not give away any kills, should be a pretty good mid lane for him. SNHU responds with the Mordekaiser. Alright, this is very good because Yone is a AD carry in that mid lane, so getting some AP damage out of the top and jungle means that you still have some good damage profile, so it's not super easy for y'all going to itemize against. Looks like we're saving our last pick for support. Coming down to the final seconds. SNHU decides to go for the Lulu pick. Alright, very lane dominant. Still Enchanter, so it has some late game scaling with all the buffs that she can give, but still can be very much bully in this bottom lane. Though Morgana does have good matchup into it if you can land those bindings and your black shield timing is on point. Cassante hover for the final pick from UAlbany. Looks like it is going to be locked in. All right. So, judging by the drafts, UAlbany definitely seems to have like a kind of protect the puppy style comp that we used to see back in the day with like RNG and things. Jinx going to be the big damage dealer. Malzahar and Morgana can offer a fair share of damage, especially if Morgana wants to build more into that AP style. But Jinx is definitely going to be the throughput. Versus SNHU decides to go for a much wider damage profile. Everyone on their team, even the Lulu, can offer quite a bit of damage given the right circumstances. Now, obviously, Lulu probably going to be building more towards that Enchanter, so her damage is going to be focused around the early game. But, picks can put in a lot of work, especially in those early levels. So it's going to be SNHU, I assume, is going to be wanting to try and get these early leads in the lanes, get some early advantages. Well, UAlbany is just looking to, survive the onslaught, farm up, scale into that Jinx hyper carry, 3, 4, 5 item power spike. Alrighty, and as soon as we get into champion select, into load screen, I will be back. Alrighty, here we are in game number 1. 3 minutes spectator delay is come and gone. And we're immediately into a pause. Wonderful, wonderful. Exactly what you love to see. Hopefully it's not too long of a pause. Maybe just someone had some problems disconnecting, some internet issues, something like that. Something that we can get figured out pretty soon. Looking at lane assignments. Yep, it is as we thought. Yone mid, Mordekaiser top. Oh yeah, looks like SNHU's AD carry is having some PC issues. So hopefully they can get that sorted out and we can get underway. Looks like the Morgana has opted into an Ignite choice summoner spell. Not really one that you see very frequently anymore. Looking to maybe get some early pressure on to that Lulu MF. If you do land the Morgana binding in almost any lane, you are, getting a ton of damage, if not a kill. So, not exactly unheard of for her to take something a bit more aggressive. You see Lulu taking the heal, as most enchanters do. Such a low cooldown these days, so you can really just kind of spam it in a lot of the fights. And TPs across the board for the solo laners. Ghost on the Mordekaiser. Really just going to look to run people down instead of making those flash plays. Alrighty. We'll be back when the pause is done. Please hold tight. I apologize for the delays, everybody, but it is, pretty early on in the season. People still working out the kinks of everything. Alright, and we are back. Hopefully that is the last of the PC troubles for the series. Looks like both teams are just kind of fanning out into your usual spots, scouting for any sort of invades. Looks like SNHU is pinging that they want to invade for some early vision in the topside jungle. Very common, but we do see that UAlbany has people here to defend it. Alright. Gonna force that ward into the tri-bush from UAlbany. No one takes any ward, so no early experience, no early level cheese available to anyone. And it looks like UAlbany has successfully fended off the push. So everyone will be starting in Fog of War. Oh, wait. Yone's going for that late invade. Udyr here does spot him. Not going to show himself, but he will know that his raptors are warded. Very important knowledge for him. Sometimes knowing where the enemy vision is can be just as important as the enemy vision being there. Volibear obviously will know that he is starting on a ward himself, as Malzahar does place that. As we get into the lanes. Volibear clearing from Raptors down to his Krugs. Udyr mirroring him on the top side. But we did actually start on his red, so Udyr, if he decides to recall after this, will be a camp behind, but he might just be going Raptors into bot side, while Volibear is probably going to back and walk top instead. Yep. Udyr walks onto that Raptor camp. Okay, Volibear elects that he is just going to walk, does dodge the ward. So SNHU has information of where Albany's jungler is, and Albany probably can infer that Volibear is somewhere on the top side right now, but they cannot be sure. We see Yone trying to get some aggression on. Good dodge out from the Malzahar. Missing that Q, so only going to be taking the auto attacks and the E damage. Could have very well taken him down to a quarter HP if he had been hit by that Q. That Malzahar is just so annoying in terms of neutralizing these, especially these melee carries, as he just loves to, you know, WEQ the wave. If you stand next to your minions, you're just going to get E'd yourself, take a bunch of free damage. As you do see Yone with that Doran shield, just trying to get as much sustain out of this as he can. Lane's pretty even right now, some slight CS leads in everything, but nothing really to write home about. As we see the Morgana land onto the Lulu, forcing the flash, but she is just dead. Nice gank setup from UAlbany. Easy first blood for the Udyr. Maybe would have liked it to go onto that Jinx to try and get her to propel towards her item power spikes, but you know, first blood is first blood. Yone going in. Malzahar almost out of mana. It's not really going to be able to keep that push up and that punish for much longer, but does have the TP, so that maybe he can just go back to base, refuel, get a Lost Trapper if he has the money. As we see Udyr, very common, going for that early AP to make that ulti that much more threatening. Really ups that that brawl potential in case you find the enemy jungler or on these invades or the ganks. Alright, yeah, Malzahar was able to get some mana back. Immediately Yone going in, gonna fight for that passive. Ooh, okay. Nice trade from the Yone. Does take one tower shot at the end there to kind of make it a little bit more even. Otherwise he would have had the Malzahar pretty low. Morgana does roam here, just gonna try and, you know, relieve some of that pressure off the Malzahar. As he does, maybe look for a back, gonna decide to push one more. Right, a little bit of an awkward gank here. Ooh, nice flash W out of the Yone, gets the kill on the Malzahar, will get his life traded, as we see the pull under tower from the Cassante, and that is Feats of War going over to UAlbany. Nicely played from everybody. Malzahar baits in the Yone with his low health bar. Does die in the end there, but you both have those TPs, so they're going to be able to go back. Yone does get the kill gold. Malzahar actually didn't even get an assist, so actually pretty good outcome for the Yone there. But Udyr is going to be loving that extra little bit of gold in his pockets. And we see a Volibear gank top. Cassante going to try and W it. And Volibear unable to land the Q because of that. Nicely played to keep his summoner spells. Alright, Morgana Q does land onto the Misfortune. This is going to be so much damage. Udyr is polymorph, but he's black shielded now. Has the stun, has the damage. That's 3 kills for the Udyr, and he is getting mighty fed in this early game. Gonna see if he's gonna be leaning into more of that damage after the first item, or if he's gonna go into more of a bruiser route. Yone does have the ulti now. Probably not gonna look for it. Just gets his trade back. It's so annoying trying to fight a Yone and E, because you know basically all of that damage is gonna get amplified after the fact. There's really not much you can do to punish it. You can try to get back what little damage you can, but Malzahar, not really the highest burst. Okay, Yone on there. We do see the Volibear. Malzahar running down. 2 members of UAlbany in the bot river, but they're not going to be able to get there in time, and Malzahar goes down for a second time. Binding does land onto the Volibear. Has to use the ulti to not get caught by the Jinx traps. Looks like he should be able to get out. Yes, with the flash. So it's going to be a 1-4-0 with SNHU. Does have to spend the jungler flash, though, so we'll see if maybe Udyr is going to try and get a bit more aggressive, maybe shove his gold lead into the Volibear now. Now this Cassante offers so much damage, really, with those Qs, those empowered autos, and the ultimate. So you'd think that, you know, a tank would maybe struggle in a bruiser matchup, but Cassante, ever since his release, has been able to fight 1v1 with almost anyone. As we see, it looks like MF has a bit of a CS lead, but those 2 assists really doing wonders to equalize, probably even give the Jinx a little bit of a gold lead, though MF does have the better buy with the BF sword. Malzahar is here. Doesn't have the flash, but the Morgana gonna land another cube and a sniper all day, and that MF, a little bit awkward with the layering of the CC, is able to kind of walk out a little bit, but you know, an MF with no flash doesn't really have any chance of getting away, so UAlbany picks up their 5th kill onto the Jinx. Good injection of gold, and this MF gonna be struggling now. If you're an MF and you're kind of struggling in the laning phase, it's not a good omen. SNHU gonna trade the grubs for that bot lane pressure. As we did see UAlbany get the first dragon off of that jungler flash, so it's gonna be 1 objective apiece when it comes to feet. Udyr trying to get this MF to back, but does eat quarter of his health bar in response. Probably just got pushed off those Krugs there. Gonna go back to his blue. We do see Mordekaiser does have about a 10 CS lead. Not much at this stage of the game, but you know, any little lead does help. Cassante is going for that early magic resist, as you would expect against double AP jungle top. And yeah, he's just, you know, getting those grasp procs off, trying to get as much damage onto this Mordekaiser as he can. Mordekaiser really good in those short trades with his W, but if you can force it out, wow, he's gonna be holding it. Maybe you're gonna be looking to use it to sustain here. Yone going back in on the Malzahar, gonna be silenced up, but doesn't really care. He's gonna auto you all the same. Pretty even trade overall. Gonna go for the ulti. Does whiff it though, but he does have the 3rd Q stacked up. Not going to be a kill, but, you know, even with the missed ulti, it is going to be a positive trade for the Yone. Does have that a little bit of sustain with the Vamstar. Cassante going to go all out onto the Mordekaiser, but he isn't going to get the kill. The tower, last shot. Mordekaiser able to take the 1v1. A little miscalculation from UAlbany's Cassante. Hopefully that doesn't lead to a flipping of the lane dynamic, as we do see first item going to be purchased up here. Volibear going to be rooted up. Going to press the Q again, but to no avail. Yeah, okay, Malzahar ult completely outplaying you, forcing the flash roll, followed immediately by the Udyr. That's Ice Storm, just making sure you have absolutely nowhere to run. 4th kill for this Udyr. Another Morgana binding going to land onto the Lulu, still level 5, so squishy. Gonna take a super mega death rocket to the face. 3-7, big gold lead opening up for UAlbany, almost 2,000 gold, about 1,500 gold at the 11-minute mark. We'll see if MF can get any of these minions. MF pretty good at CSing on a tower with that double tap, so as long as the minion aggro does not troll her, should be able to pick those minions up no problem. Yeah, it just seems to be that UAlbany has been getting the better of these early fights. Udyr are able to put so much pressure around the map. Volibear, you know, has had some success, blowing some summoner spells and things like that, but just the setup from a Lulu MF is not nearly as good as just a Morgana root that makes you sit in place for 2.5 seconds. So, you know, as long as Zoo keeps landing those Morgana Qs, kills are going to keep going towards UAlbany. Another dragon is spawning. It's going to be a Cloud Drake. So we do see UAlbany kind of hovering around there, maybe trying to get some vision set up for it. Volibear is pathing down to the bot side. It's probably not going to be free. We see some more trading going on in the mid lane. Malzahar, despite the 2 deaths, has opened up a little bit of a CS lead. As you'd expect, just being able to just roll his face onto the minion wave, keep that lane pushed, and Yone has been able to get some pressure onto this, but, you know, not nearly as much as you'd think he would want. Looking to trade again, probably not going to invest anything more. Yeah, it does dodge out on that 3rd Q. Most of the damage comes from that in this laning phase. As we see the 2nd dragon picked up for UAlbany. What sort of rift are we going to have today? Ocean Rift. Alright. You know, don't currently have any objectives up right now. Rift Herald going to be that next thing that spawns. UAlbany is 1 objective away from their feats of war. Volibear gonna look to trade in onto this Udyr. Udyr very strong, but very squishy with this build. Volibear gonna invest the ulti and the Lulu to knock him up, make sure he's out of that tower range, and it's gonna result in 2 kills going over the Yone. Exactly who you do not want to see getting any sort of gold from the UAlbany side. Gonna be that main focus of pressure onto this Jinx. So much mobility and damage in the late game. Propelling him into those early item power spikes is going to be a little terrifying for any immobile AD carry. Though he did have to pivot into an early QSS to deal with this Malzahar ult, that 1,300 gold Malzahar tax. So we see supports fighting over vision, as you do. Morgana Q gonna land onto this MF. Super Mega Death Rocket immediately comboed into the Morgana ult, and she's just dead. Yeah, fighting Morgana for vision is always an exercise in your skill shot dodging skills. Fails the test there right now. We see this Jinx already has the Yuntal's matched by the Misfortune, but you know, you expect the Jinx is just gonna have so much more impact in these late game fights if MF isn't gonna be able to land those big ultimates. There's a little bit of setup with the Yone ult, so it's not like, you know, he's just gonna be throwing those out completely blind, but not as much as like you maybe would want as a Misfortune. So we have seen UAlbany, you know, probably the better late game threats in the Jinx and Cassante. Been able to actually get a little bit of a gold lead for themselves. Yone scaling up nicely himself though, so it's not like SNHU has no teamfight ability in this late game. We do see the Volibear going for that Ivori Quick Blades. Very popular item. Some might say a little bit too strong. Wow, blind Morgana Q onto Lulu. Morgana just chunks Lulu for half her HP, basically forces the flash by herself. Morgana with any sort of AP does become a pretty good damage threat. Cassante just running down this MF, two level lead, goes all out, gonna dive under the tower, and that is easy as pie. Another kill for the Cassante. Yone, suppressed by the Malzahar, immediately going to pop that QSS so he doesn't die. Cassante is getting collapsed on by 2 people. This Volibear does do a lot of damage with this build. Doesn't quite have that Ivori Quick Blade out yet, but plenty enough damage even without it. Turns off the tower so he makes sure he doesn't have anything to worry about for the dive. He's sticking around for this minion wave though. Malzahar here, doesn't have ulti, probably just going to be picking up that wave, trying to push it out. Malzahar passive absorbs the Volibear Q so he won't get stunned up. Ghost from Mordekaiser. Maybe he was looking for a pull there, but decides against it. Just going to take the minion wave and dip. We see Jinx in the top wave, going to get the turret. So that is feat for UAlbany. Did take the first tower in mid lane, so it's not like that Jinx tower was the thing that cinched it, but you know. Feat very strong. As soon as you choose, like, it's obviously immediate power spike, not huge. But as soon as you choose to upgrade those boots, those effects can be pretty nasty, especially cooldown boots. Now, what are we going to be fighting over next? Cassante, looking to trade in onto this Yone, is level 12, has his Blade of the Rim King, but he does have an Udyr behind him. It'd be difficult to 1v2. Either, you know, just kind of delaying some time, trying to get this TP in. Mordekaiser probably coming in, and the TP is enough to scare away UAlbany. So, Mordekaiser comes in to save his mid laner. Nice guy, Mord. Let's see if they can get some pressure onto this top tower now that he is there. We do see the Volibear there with ulti, pinging like he wants to dive. Oh my gosh, so much CC onto this Cassante. Does eat some good amount of it with the W. Can he get the trade back? Does not look like he will. But in the mid lane, UAlbany managed to get a 2-4-0. So even when you make these proactive plays in the top lane, UAlbany does immediately answer it back with 2 kills for themselves. And it's going to be another dragon also picked up. So trading, kills for kills, towers for dragons. This will put UAlbany onto Soul Point. And Ocean Soul is going to be huge for dealing, for the survivability of this Cassante and Udyr in these fights. Udyr just now getting into his first more tanky item. So as soon as he gets a few more of those online, he is really going to turn into more of a front-line character. Still good damage with the Leandries, but able to, you know, block some skill shots for his more squishy backline. And yeah, just looking at the bot lanes here, 2-0-4 on Jinx, 3-0-4 on this Morgana. Been a clinic in bot lane domination, really not what you expect. MF really wanting to, put some pressure early on, leverage that early damage into some gold lead, but just has not been able to do that. Morgana Q's been the great equalizer here, as we see Mordekaiser fresh with that Rylai's Crystal Scepter, going to be really annoying to walk away from. Cassante desperately trying to W away, does manage to get away. Not much damage, as Cassante does have double MR items, going for a third MR item right off the bat, so really itemizing for this 1 versus 1. It looks like Yone is going to try and go in on this Malzahar. Q's to try and dodge out on the Malzahar Science. Is forced to use the QSS as he was caught under tower. That is a trade he will take any day of the week. If Malzahar is keeps using that suppression onto a QSS target, it really does take away a lot of value from the pick. So Yone gonna just keep throwing himself at this Malzahar whenever he has his QSS up. His ulti does land. Alright, this is a big amount of damage. The E is going to pop. Not quite enough. Malzahar walking away with sub 100 HP there. Slight miscalculation from the SNHU mid laner there. Probably could have gotten the kill if he had landed another auto. But did not want to stick around just in case Malzahar was able to get another cycle of spells on him. And Malzahar, not exactly the biggest burst character, but does do a lot of that consistent damage. Already has one burn item built. Quickly moving on to the second one, even though he did pivot into that Oblivion Orb to try and cut down on that Yone healing. We see Navori Quick Blades has been finished by the Volibear. Huge power spike for him. He now can just spam his abilities so much once he gets on top of you. Otacon is being started up already at half HP. We'll see if SNHU wants to contest this. This is a lot of the gold lead for UAlbany though, so it's going to be very dangerous for them to get in there. Volibear does jump in, but is immediately rooted. Black Shield onto the Udyr, trying to get him to run away. Morgana desperately pops the ultimate, trying to run away. Volibear gets on top of her. She has no Black Shield, but she does land the clutch root, and he's just burning. Burns the flash to get the kill. Currently 1 for 1, but that Yone gets onto that juicy black line carry in the Jinx. Has absolutely nothing they can do, and it does end up being a 4 for 1 in favor of SNHU. Otacon does go over to UAlbany, so in the long run it is going to be better for them. But right now, a lot of pressure onto the spot lane turret as Mordekaiser is continuously pushing in that Cassante. And we see the gold lead has swung back in favor of SNHU. Really off the back of these Yone plays, Volibear, now that he's got his 2-item power spike, really looking to brawl as much as he can. And the Cassante, despite having some early success, has been struggling recently. 2-3-0 now. Just kind of left in that side lane duty, trying to push out those waves. Not really able to join the fights as he might want to, so he can peel off that Yone with that all out. So we'll see if SNHU is going to keep up this sort of 1-3-1 style pressure. They really are kind of favored in these side lanes. And then what UAlbany's response is going to be. No objectives on the map right now. Black Shield is put onto the Jinx, so no threat of the Volibear chain stun. Not yet, anyway. Wow, that was a lot of damage onto that Lulu. Just a Morgana QW and half HP gone. That's the power of that Leandri's Torment build. Morgana not a slouch when it comes to the damage at all. Her and Malzahar really going to be making these SNHU carries question where they want to stand. Alright, Dragon has spawned, and it is Soul for UAlbany. They'd love to get here. 5 people, though, from both sides. This is going to be a huge fight. Whoever wins this, it's going to be in a great position in this game. Big damage onto Yone. He's going to be needing to hit that minion wave to heal back up. UAlbany trying to pressure, get that middle lane push so they can start this Dragon. Do have a little bit of a window now with low health bars on 2 of the SNHU members. Morgana Q just barely misses. Alright, Udyr is stunned up. Does get the Black Shield a little late there, but only loses about a quarter of his HP. Does elect to start up the Dragon. As SNHU is pressuring that mid lane. Gonna now rotate into the river, though. UAlbany has already started the Drake. Can't exactly see its HP right now. They peeled off and going for the fight. Alright, here we go. Malzahar immediately goes down. Does it get his spells off, though? So you see so much damage going onto that back line. Udyr is going to be deleted by that Volibear. Can't move with how much stuns are coming out of it. Morgana ulti is going to be immune with the Volibear ult, and it looks like it's going to be a 1-team fight for SNHU. Currently 2 for 4. Not able to get that last Cassante kill, but that is going to be the all-important Dragon Soul stop. As we see Cassante just going to be dueling this MF. Oh, so very close, but MF is able to get that last auto off. That pressed the attack damage just enough to secure the kill and save his life. As we see the last outer tower going to be going down. And this gold lead has quietly ballooned to almost 4,000. Actually, a little over 4,000 now for SNHU. Really good grit to kind of come back from this early pressure in the bot side. We have seen MF get some nice ultis off in these fights, so despite the lack of follow-up, sometimes all you need is that slow ulti, as a lot of the UAlbany does not really have much mobility themselves to get out of it. Just kind of walking around. Cassante the only one with an actual dash, if you don't count the speed-ups from Udyr and Jinx. Do see some items being finished up. 2 items for both AD carries, 2 items for both mid laners. No one's quite yet finished their 3rd item yet. Big power spikes are waiting for both teams. Now the name of the game for UAlbany, like I said in draft, is going to be trying to protect this Jinx. Make sure this Yone can't get on top of her. But he's just going to be dashing onto this Malzahar. So much damage. Yeah, 2.5 item Yone just kind of deletes you if you get hit by his knockup. So Malzahar, going to have a very difficult time trading into him. Doesn't have any sort of ability to dodge out on the Q other than just fancy feet. So... And with that kill, we are going to see SNHU start up the Baron, already down to half HP. UAlbany is kind of looking like they want to rotate to contest, but it's so low already. Udyr on the side of the pit. They do have the Mordekaiser ulti to make sure he doesn't even have a hope of stealing it. Cassante going to get in there, try and remove some of these Baron buffs, but he is just going to go down. And Morgana gonna get jumped on by this Volibear. Does take the blast gun to safety, but you have to imagine, yep, there's the second Q, and that is enough to get a 3-4 nothing in this extended play. Looking for more, a little bit greedy. These are some strong team members in Jinx and Udyr. It does force the flash away. Navori Quickblade, so strong, just so many abilities being slung back to back to back. And it does take down the last 2 members of UAlbany. Malzahar is up. Gonna probably try and push out these waves, but he's only 1 man. He can't cover all 3 lanes at once, especially when those 3 lanes are Baron buffed. So we will see UAlbany's base probably cracked open here. Top lane tower gonna be the first inner tower to fall, or first base tower to fall, quickly followed by the mid lane. Yeah, desperately trying to get any sort of push out onto this, but that Baron buff keeping these minions healthy. That cannon minion so far away, putting so much damage in. Yone gonna flash in. His ulti does get immune by the Black Shield, but the damage is physical. The Black Shield does nothing for that, so the Malzahar will be able to, or will be going down again. 0-0-7, having a rough game. Super Mega Death Rocket does answer back, killing that fed Yone there. But at this point, so much gold lead in favor of SNHU. They're looking to push, get their 3rd inhib, and that is going to be double super minions in all the waves. Should be able to wave clear here from UAlbany, you'd expect, especially with that Volibear being half HP. Not really looking to engage himself. Probably looking to get engaged on, though. Udyr gonna elect to run away. Don't want to overextend here. Any death from UAlbany could just be the game. So they're gonna have to be playing very carefully now. Alright, and we do see SNHU pinging onto that dragon. They want to get that dragon stacking for themselves. Deny that soul for UAlbany. That is going to be one of the win conditions, or comeback conditions, I should say, for UAlbany. If they can get that Ocean Soul, that does offer so much added tankiness in the form of regeneration for their front line. Going to make it a lot easier for them to stand and fight this Yone Volibear frontline combo. Super minions already on the Nexus turrets, though. Jinx going to get stunned up. Nowhere to run, no mobility to speak of, absolutely deleted, and that's going to be a clean fight for SNHU. Does maybe get one back here with the Cassante, but he misses the Q. One more, come on, just one more here, and he's not going to land it. It's a clean 5-0, and that is going to be game 1 for SNHU. It looked like they, UAlbany did have a little bit, or have a good early game, get some gold onto that Udyr and Jinx, but that Malzahar lane unable to neutralize that Yone, and he was able to just quickly farm up, get some kills, and just steamroll the game, really put the team on his back in the mid game there. And quick reminder, we are in Fearless Draft, so all of these picks are now series banned. So no more Yone. Albany is not going to have to worry about that in the future. No more Volibear as well. Huge power pick gone. As we should be getting almost immediately into the draft of game number 2. Now, what is UAlbany going to do to respond? The Protect the Puppy comp did not work out. Jinx just a little too immobile, even with the Morgana Black Shield to try and give her some CC immunity. Just so many threats running at her from the Yone, Volibear, Mordekaiser, and then just an MF ult on top of it. So maybe we shall see a little bit more of a self-sufficient AD carry, or just, a little bit wider of a damage profile spread. Morgana, Malzahar do offer some good damage, but, not nearly as much as, like an Azir or something like that. All right. And we will be back when Draft 2 starts. Alrighty, and here we are into game number 2. Same sides as game number 1. Going to start off with that early Ashe ban, followed by the Akali. Both banned in game number 1, so probably going to look to be a bit consistent. One of these things with Fearless Draft is that, even if you are steamrolled by a pick you weren't expecting in game number 1, you don't have to worry about it in game number 2 or 3, as it is series banned. Yeah, looks like it's going to be the exact same 3 bans for both teams. So, let's see if UAlbany is going to change up their draft strategy at all. SNHU, if they can keep this momentum going into game number 2. For first pick, we are going to have Ezreal. All right. Bit more... not much as big a team fighter as an MF, but, still can put a lot of pressure early into that bot lane if you're landing those skill shots, and does some good damage late game once he gets his, Sheen item going, his Mirror Mana, things like that. Albany going to respond. We did see them first pick their AD carry last time. Are they going to do the exact same this time? As we see no champion picked. Alright, so might have to do a quick restart, or maybe just they might be talking to each other so that there's a little there is no confusion. Hopefully everyone is here, and that was just a little bit of a mistake. Albany just forgot to, hover the champion they wanted. Lost some time. Is going to be the Kaisa picked up. Alright, so, yeah. Most likely just, messaged over what they actually meant to pick there. Kaisa, bit more self-sufficient than the Jinx. Does have a lot of late-game damage, but, is able to kind of duck and dive around the fight a little bit more with that invisibility, with that ultimate. So hopefully she won't be getting jumped on as Jinx was in game number 1. Theo going to be picked up. Another brawly melee carry for the SNHU jungler, and the Dr. Mundo. Another beefy brawler up in the top lane. Kind of similar to Mordekaiser. A bit more tanky, not as focused on the, the damage, but going to be really honing in on that 1v1 split push style. Dr. Mundo, if he is left alone in the side lane, can take towers extremely quickly. It's going to be the Darius answer. All right, that was banned by SNHU in game number 1, so UAlbany is going to elect to first round it now that they do see the top lane matchup. Darius is able to bully a lot of lanes early on, so hopefully UAlbany can get a bit of a lead going from there. Really shut down the Dr. Mundo before he was able to scale into his split push menace playstyle. So we see the Yasuo band. Now, Yone, Yasuo, very similar characters in terms of what they want to be doing, with how just kind of dashing around the fight, getting into that enemy backline. So, UAlbany may be considering that if you can't play Yone, you might as well ban the brother. Seraphine will be banned again by SNHU, followed by the Nefiri. All right, yeah, Nefiri, lane Nefiri has been, getting a little bit more popular recently, so trying to take that off. Just another one of those AD backline divers taken off the board. UAlbany learning from game number 1, wants to limit the backline dive as much as possible. So we'll see what SNHU is going to be responding for their final ban. And it's going to be the Janna. All right, taking some of those enchanters off the board. Now, Kaisa does like to pair up with maybe a bit more of an engage character, though Janna and Seraphine do offer some CC for the Kaisa to dash onto. So not bad bans, but there are still plenty of picks that Kaisa would love to pair with. Alrighty, and what do we have here for UAlbany? It's going to be the Hui. Alright. Another control mage in mid lane. Hui, one of the newer characters, very complicated. I don't think I fully remember what all of his abilities do, but I will do my best. Nautilus going to be paired up with the Ezreal. Yeah, lots of frontline, lots of engage coming out from the bot lane of SNHU. They are going to be pairing up with their last pick mid lane. Does get counter pick on the way here. What is he going to be looking for? Renekton. Alrighty, that is not what I expected at all. So, Renekton mid, maybe? Or I guess it could be a Mundo mid, though I expect the Renekton mid would probably fare a bit better. We do see this Karma picked up instead. So it looks like UAlbany did decide to pick jungle first. We'll see once we get back into client what that pick actually is. And from there, we can maybe talk about their comps a little more. Oh, one moment, we do have to rejoin the spectating lobby. Alright, and here we go into champion pick. Very curious to see where people are going. Lilia was the final pick, well, really the first pick, but the final pick that we know of for UAlbany. And it is going to be the Mundo mid lane. Alrighty. Very interesting. Not something that I have seen. I'm curious to see how it's going to match up against this Hui. You have to imagine that Hui is going to get very easily be able to get the push onto him with that, that red carpet that he likes to lay down, that mini rumble ult. But Renekton, much more able to kind of duel this Darius up in the top lane, another early game brawler. So maybe SNHU just decides that they want to, pivot away from the Mundo, as that would have been, in all honesty, atrocious matchup into the Darius. So just kind of protecting him, saying that he's going to be able to farm up a bit better against the control mage. Alright, we have another 3-minute spectator delay. As soon as that is over and we are into game, I will be back. Alright, and here we are in game number 2. And continuation of the boggling Mundo MIG pick. He does go for Grasp of the Undying. Very common rune on Mundo, but not one I would usually expect in a melee versus range matchup. Now, there really isn't a better option for him, so I guess, you know, what else would he take if he wants to take something in the Resolve tree? But probably not gonna be able to farm too many grass snaps in this lane. Hui just gonna want to keep him at a distance. As we see once again, both teams spreading out, really just making sure that neither team can get that early vision. Though we do see Mundo pinging and walking towards the Raptors now. Lilia did elect to start walking to the bot side, so SNHU will get that early Raptor ward once again, and this time Albany has no clue that it is there. Though they do see that Mundo has walked into lane from that direction, so maybe they can kind of infer that. Both junglers starting on the bot side this time, clearing towards the top most likely. We see Darius popping that early ghost, gonna get that 5 stacks of bleed onto the Renekton, so much AD. And that's going to be... Oh, misses the auto! But he does get that last hit. First blood going over to UAlbany. Yeah, Renekton able to fight the Darius, but no one can fight the Darius level 1. He stacks that... those 5 stacks of bleed on you, gets all that bonus AD, and just kind of beats you down with the ghost. Not really giving you any options to run away unless you want to burn a summoner spell of your own. Now, Renekton does have the TP, so he's not going to miss very many minions. Big hook. A good hook onto the Kaisa. Not going to really result in much than a little bit of damage, but quarter HP gone. As we see Darius going to push in one more wave and back. Get early boots and some armor for the Renekton. So, yep, this is pretty standard. If you get a good lead, you just kind of build some early resistances as the Darius so that you, you know, mitigate the risk, make sure that you stay in the lead. As we see Mundo just kind of beating up. Early invade onto the Lilia though. Viego does land the stun, but not really able to follow up more. Darius is here to kind of push him out. Hui there does force the flash from the Viego, and he now no longer has any flash, going to be running to the Renekton. Mundo now landing the briefcases onto the Hui. Good trade. Does eat a few autos there. But overall, it's going to be both jungler flashes blown. So early gank potential going to be much harder for both sides now. So we do see the Karma just kind of laying into that Nautilus. Yeah, these poke style supports do kind of get free reign against these melee characters as long as they are playing around their minions, making sure they don't get random CC landed onto them. So that is the last thing you want to have happen in a lane like this. Do see Mundo keeping up pretty well in the CS, able to trade his HP bar for that wave pretty effectively. Lilia gonna be hit by the dredge line, force the W away, and nothing will come of it, though that is good information and time wasted on UAlbany's part. As you see the Viego just kind of clearing his camps, making sure those things are on respawn timers, maximum efficiency. And Hui is eating a lot of damage. He's been hit by a lot of these Qs and minion E's from this Mundo. So Mundo mid, kind of, at least early on, holding up a lot better than I thought it would. Yeah, Darius zoning the Renekton off the wave. Just kind of daring him to step forward into apprehend range. So he does Q this wave, gonna finally get it pushing under the Renekton's tower. Renekton should be able to clean up most of this. Does have some decent abilities for CSing under tower. And Ian stun the Darius. Get the Q off. Has no more abilities though, and Darius is just kind of walloping. Apprehends him. Gets 5th stack. Is the Q going to be enough? Doesn't actually get the sweet spot, but he is ticking down, and the bleed will secure second kill for UAlbany. Darius commanding lead in the early game now. Immediately going to back, and Renekton, not only does he die there, he misses a full wave to his tower, so he's going to be even further down in experience now. We see the full tabbies, or sorry, plated steel caps coming out from the Darius. Gonna really make that Renekton's trade pattern so difficult for him. Alright, Viego is hovering the bot side here, pinging onto the bot wave. Looks like SNHU does kind of want to make a play. Nautilus is sitting on this control ward in case someone lazily decided to walk into the tri-bush but decides not to go for the hook onto the Karma. So we see once again Renekton. Yeah, he pops the ghost, gets apprehended anyway. Doesn't quite have level 6, but he doesn't need it. And that is going to be Feats of Warfare completely earned solo by the Darius top lane. Yeah, and this Renekton is going to be struggling now. Renekton really wants to use these lane phases to propel for an early lead so that he can, you know, become that 1v9 raid boss. But it looks like Darius is going to be taking that role this game. As we still see this Mundo, despite taking lots of damage, getting his farm only down 4 CS now. Probably going to pick up most of those waves, so he's really only going to be down like 1 or 2. And, you know, Quay isn't, you know, maybe wanting to dominate the lane. That's not really his primary win condition as a, you know, an artillery control mage. But would probably have liked to get a little bit more pressure going onto this Mundo. Mundo is kind of difficult to gank with that passive, so especially because Lilia does not have any CC in her base kit, really relying on that ultimate. So it would really be on Quay to break the passive before the Lilia gank is there. Apprehend does land on Renekton, but this time he does have the dash to get away. Now, when you force Renekton to kind of save his dash to run away from you, it's a lot harder for him to do anything. Quay forced a flash away from the briefcase, as that would have guaranteed the Viego stun. Does trade back half the health bar, but Viego very happy to take that summoner spell, make it even easier for his Mundo to farm up in this lane, really relieve that pressure. So Void Grubs do spawn. And outside of top lane, been pretty quiet. You know, some ganks happen, some summoners blown, but mostly just been farming. No huge farm leads to speak of outside of this Darius Renekton, already almost 30 CS up on his opponent. It is going to be a question of, does SNHU invest some resource to try and get this Renekton back into the game, or do they just kind of leave him out to dry and hope that he is able to pick up what gold he can? Really a lose-lose situation either way, because Darius is a character that if you gank him 2v1 and he's got all of his ability up, he can turn that around just by himself. So we see Viego looking for a lane gank maybe. Gonna start backing in the bush. Does cancel as UAlbany is pushing the wave. It looks like they are not going to be pushing it fast enough, as Viego is going to... Ooh, that Nautilus hook does prompt him to cancel, though. Yeah, immediately Karma does flash, recognizing the threat there. So another summoner blown by SNHU. Can they convert that into anything, though? Not ult onto the Karma. Followed up by the hook, but she is under tower, and Nautilus does not have any items. Not very tanky right now, so doesn't want to take up that tower... or tank up that tower too much right now. In the late game, he'd probably be happy to take a few tower shots for his carries, but right now, that would just result in his death. Now, all that pressure bot lane does blow a summoner spell, 2 summoner spells actually, but it does mean that the Lilia does get free grubs, as we see the Mundo just absolutely walking down this way, gonna pop the ghost, and that auto E just chunks way for the last 100 damage. And Mundo is winning the mid lane. Not what I would have expected at all. Really just kind of maybe preying on the fact that this is not a lane that UAlbany has practiced against very often. Karma is going to pop the Mundo passive, but he's just going to pop his ulti and walk away. Does get slept. W into Q, but that's kind of all of Lilia's damage right now, and he's just regenning it up, walking on out of there. Mundo goes where he pleases, and he is not going back to base right now. Alright, and we do see more members around this mid lane. SNHU was able to pick up that dragon, so it is currently 1-1 in objectives. Flash W onto the Hui, immediately into the hook, so much damage onto him. Pops the ulti, but it's not going to be enough. A kill goes over to this Viego. Not someone you want to be getting a lot of gold here, as similar to a Yone can really just dive onto these backlines and cause havoc if he gets any sort of gold lead going. And yeah, we haven't seen another kill out of this top lane, but that CS lead has ballooned to 35. I mean, I guess now it's 32, now that Renekton has cleared out those little minion waves, but that's a huge experience lead going over to the Darius. Let's see if UAlbany is going to try and play around this at all. Does land the Q. Ooh, nice dash from the Renekton to get out of the apprehend. Means that he is not going to have to blow his flash there. And yeah, this mid lane, Mundo, up in CS, has the kill, already has his Warmog, so he is big chilling right now. Hui just throwing out red carpets, trying to clear this lane or this wave as fast as possible. Renekton gonna dash forward onto the Darius. Not really a great idea there, forced to blow the flash to get away, as you would imagine that if Darius had been able to land an E on him, he probably would have just died. And Darius gonna harass under tower as best he can. Okay, dashes forward to kind of dodge out on the apprehend, then dashes backward. Does pop the ulti, doesn't want to get auto-ulted by this Darius. So cooldown advantage to the Darius, but nice cheeky play out of SNHU vibin to save his life. Nautilus just trying to get what money and experience he can here. Does manage to get one minion. Gonna go back to base, a little bit desynced with his AD carry, but there is a Viego here to hover if anything does start to go wrong. Never mind, he's gonna think better of it and stay around. Next objective spawning not very soon, so right now it's just once again back to farming in these lanes. Nautilus looking to maybe find a hook here, but there is a Lilia in the background, so UAlbany not playing scared in the slightest. As we see, both top laners do have this first item completed. Sojin for the Darius, Eclipse for the Renekton, and he just flash Q ults. That, doing a third of the Renekton's health bar there. Yeah, Eclipse really good for the short burst trades, but does not give Renekton any sort of tankiness. So he is just going to pop to this Darius. So we see 4-0 and even more damage, more CS lost by this Renekton. Mundo forced to come up here and catch it. Otherwise, you would imagine that Darius would have been able to get that first turret and the feats for UAlbany. Did manage to get it in game one, despite it not, giving them the victory in the end. But always, you never want to give your opponent any sort of advantage if you can help it. Renekton almost here, so you imagine that the Mundo will be going back to base. Ooh, Kai'Sa ulting in onto the Karma route, forcing the flash out of Ezreal, and Mundo is just going to be walking down this Darius. He does heal back to half and with the Q, but Mundo does manage to force the ghost out of Darius as he walks down to the grubs. So huge plays out of SNHU's mid laner here, winning his mid lane forcing some pressure in this top side so that his jungler can safely take the objective. Will be traded out for the second dragon, or first dragon for UAlbany, the second dragon of the game. So it's still going to be 2 objectives apiece. Feats up for anyone's taking. Alright, and I did not see... Okay, it's going to be a Chem Soul this time, so... No. Maybe not as prioritized as Soul, as an Ocean Soul like in game number 1, though we did not see the Soul be taken by either side in game number 1. But Mundo is going to be loving a tankiness as he gets lower. Any sort of durability you can add to him, he is going to gladly take. Now, first items being completed across the board here. We also see that tier almost fully stacked for the Ezreal. Once he hits that 2-item power spike, you expect that he is going to be looking to fight, as that is a huge moment of strength for him. Herald going to be pretty quickly used in the mid lane. Mundo, yeah, just not seeming to care at all for this Lilia damage. Actually just pop his ulti and go walk forward, force the flash out away. Does get the ulti back and the drowsy, so he is going to fall. Mundo a little bit too overconfident there. But you saw it actually, he was able to put so much pressure onto that way before he got the flash out on him. Mundo can do so much damage just by building a little bit of health. Darius, apprehend, forces the Renekton ult, does get the ultimate down, doesn't quite get the kill with it, but you know, the bleed will be enough at the end there. So we see fights across the map. Now, 6-2, 2,500 gold lead for UAlbany here. But almost all of that gold is on this Darius here, so the rest of the team still has to play pretty carefully. Make sure they do not overextend, especially into this Mundo Viego, both at a pretty strong point right now. Alright, and it will be feats going over to UAlbany, I believe, getting that first turret. Oh no, it was, sorry, it was SNHU got the first turret in mid. So still no feats acquired by either team. Gonna come down to who can get this last objective. Most likely going to be the dragon. As you have to imagine that neither teams are not going to wait until Otacon spawns at 20 minutes. But I'm not the one playing, so I guess I can't guarantee it. Mundo, Demolish proc, does a quarter of the tower's HP. Yeah, this is exactly where he wants to be, in a side lane, knocking down turrets, PvE instead of PvP. As he gets turret number 2 for SNHU. And you'd think that you'd want either like the Darius or the Hui here to answer him, as they you'd think that the Hui would be able to wave clear against him, the Darius would maybe be strong enough to fight him, but you don't really want to have the Darius be forced to answer someone. He wants to be putting pressure himself out. Now the sleep is going to go out, does half damage with the Viego combo onto the Hui, does get his first reset. How good is he at his mid lane champions? Not going to be anything more than that, but yeah. You saw UAlbany desperately trying to put any sort of pressure onto this Mundo, slow down his push at all, and immediately SNHU answers back in force, getting that kill onto the mid laner and putting him even further behind. Now Darius is pushing on the door of the tier 2 tower in top lane, but Mundo is doing the same, forcing out a response from the Hui. Gonna TP in with the Karma, but he's just gonna take it in their faces. And you have to imagine, yeah, he's just gonna walk away. Not really any more CC, though. The Karma root will land, but he's just so tanky with this Warmog's armor. Does eventually go down, but it took so long. even with the percent health damage from the Leandres. Diego looking on to try and get onto this Kai'Sa. She's just going to end this away. And I was proven wrong. Looks like I was not paying attention to my dragon spawn timers. Otacon will be the objective that we go for here. This will be feat for UAlbany if they pick it up, and you have to imagine that they will. Though SNHU does now have 2 members here, it's going to be a 3-on-3 for Nextman decides to join. Otacon does do a lot of damage, so it's kind of a little scary to start it. Now it's SNHU who's hitting it. Gonna get it down to 2,000, almost in range for the smites. Flashes forward onto the Lilia, and that is going to be the jungler down. Darius forced to pop the ghost to run away, and that is going to be an Otacon and feat for SNHU. Big play out of the jungler and support. And yeah, just UAlbany tried to sneak it there, but it was pretty obvious to SNHU what they were trying to do, where they were trying to get this last objective done. They were able to collapse in time. Alright, we see second item finishing up for this Viego. Big power spike for him and a heart steal on this Mundo. Even more damage going to be coming out. Even more HP going to be stacking. As you see, the only person on UAlbany's team that has 2 items completed themselves is this Darius, but he does not really want to be in these 5v5 fights, or at least not at the very beginning. He wants to be applying this pressure like he is in the side lane right now. Getting these towers down, as they probably are going to be trading what you'd hope is a top lane inner tower for this dragon. But they're going to be jumping on this way. He's just not been having a great game today. 1-4-1. Another immobile mage just with no options to defend himself once he has multiple people getting on top of him. And it will be the eventual trade of objective for tower here. But you have to imagine that dragon stacking is exactly what this SNHU squad wants to be doing now. Getting that damage reduction onto their Mundo, making him even more of a menace as a frontliner. Yeah, and we see Mundo has opened up almost an over 30 CS advantage on this way. Really calling the shots here. Like in game number 1, SNHU has been making their mid lane plays through making their map plays through their mid laner. Gonna pop the sleep onto this Renekton. He's gonna go down, but there are 3 members here, so UAlbany is gonna be forced to back up to their tower in case they get engaged on. But it looks like SNHU is not gonna be able to trade back anything for their poor crocodile top laner. But you actually see UAlbany getting pressure on the bot lane here, so kind of pulling SNHU apart at the seams. Getting this standing goal down, but Mundo looks like he's going to try and push in, get some tower damage back himself, but Darius just going to easily wave clear with his Q into auto. So yeah, Darius probably one of the better answers to this Mundo, even with how supercharged he is. Just going to be able to, trade into him into this health pool effectively. Though he is half HP now, so probably does not want to take any 1v1s at the moment. Just really going to be trying to make sure that this top lane outer tower does not go down for free. Looks like UAlbany is trying to get a catch onto this Viego here. But he's just a little bit fast enough. Does get slowed down by the Karma Cube. Gonna get rooted up. Does not have the sleep, but that last Kai'Sa auto will be enough. Traded. Finally got the shutdown from the jungler. So a good amount of money going into this Kai'Sa's pockets. Not going to have anything that they can really get after the fact, but more money on your carry is something you will never say no to. Now this Kai'Sa does have 2 items. I have to imagine that she has evolved her E at least. Kind of difficult to tell what her evolutions are in that skin. I do not own it, so apologies. And Ezreal elects to go for the Sojin second instead of getting the Muramana. Bit more CDR instead of upfront damage, maybe. Gonna be looking to sling those Qs as much as he can. Though Lilia, Kai'Sa, Karma are very slippery, very difficult to get these skill shots to land on, so it's gonna be up to him to try and make his reads where he can. Darius does chunk the Mundo down to half. Lilia is there, maybe looking to see if she can get an ulti, but that Mundo is just so tanky with the double HP items and half of the MR item now. And it looks like these are the lane assignments that we are going to be seeing for the foreseeable future. Mundo into Darius, two strongest members of either team, just kind of battling it out as you see their poor lane opponents just kind of picking up what gold they can in the bot lane. And you have to imagine then the extended trades, the Darius will win, but Mundo does so much damage with thus his Qs and his empowered auto attacks. Doesn't have his passive anymore, but he is baiting into the Viego. Darius ult is used and it does not get the kill. Mundo ult is running, he's trying to get it. The tick down will be enough, and he does have full Demacian might now, as Viego does burn down to the bleed plus Viego, or plus Lilia combo. And that's going to be a 3-for-0 in favor of UAlbany, and Baron is up. Huge fight coming out of this Darius, putting the team on his back. Quay just kind of trading into this, sorry Renekton, who doesn't even have his second item completed yet. Dashes on, does use the ulti though. Quay forced to flash away, but there is a Kai'Sa here to save the day, make sure the Hui is able to survive and get the kill back. So, but because Kai'Sa is there, this Baron take is significantly slower than it would have been. But they are able to secure it as there is no jungler on SNHU's side to pressure it at the last moment there. And with that, they're just going to rotate immediately into this dragon. Yeah, Kai'Sa basically killed that dragon by herself before the Lilia was even there. So big macro plays coming out of UAlbany. And you can see that when they have this more split damage profile, more available members that they can carry through, Albany is looking a lot better in game number 2. 6,000 gold lead at 28 minutes. Oh my god, that Nautilus, what are you doing there, buddy? Absolutely no one around to help you, just trying to get some vision. And he will lose his life for it. Another kill onto this Darius. 9-0 and 1. 4 items at 28 minutes. This Darius is juiced. You see good damage going on to this Kai'Sa, but should be able to just clear the wave and back up, you imagine. And next strongest person in the game is Mundo with 3 items, but you have to imagine that no one can stand up to this Darius in the side lane right now. Quay, a little bit caught out. Viego is here. Doesn't land the stun, but he's kind of maybe looking a little bit greedy. Does kind of get slept by the Lilia. Will it trade back? He does have his passive after getting that Hui kill. And that Lilia reset, does stop, pop the Zanya's Hourglass. Hopefully going to be able to get out. Karma Shield should be enough. Looking to maybe even turn it back onto this Ezreal. But overall, it's going to be bloodshed across the map. As you see, this poor Renekton absolutely cannot do anything against this Darius. Takes the tower in his face, gets the dunk onto him. Overall, 1-for-1 cross-map play plus a tower. Make that 2 with this Kai'Sa. So yeah, UAlbany unable to save their mid laner, but able to make sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. Huge amount of standing gold picked up there. Almost 10,000 gold lead. Kai'Sa does have to flash away to make sure that she doesn't give up her bouncy to this Mundo. But you have to imagine UAlbany is very confident with the way this game is going right now. But still, there are avenues to come back for SNHU. Thing with these side lane strategies is that if you are able to overload either the side laner or the grouped up mid, you can kind of just play the numbers game and use that to get over any sort of gold advantage that the other team has. So UAlbany has to be diligent, make sure they have their vision pushed up, make sure that their Darius does have the room to push like he wants to, and they have to make sure that they answer this Mundo, because this Mundo still will demolish towers if he is given time to do so. That's why you see two members rotating up to the top side. Probably not going to be able to kill him, but should be able to clear that wave. If he's able to stick around with the demolish prac, might just be able to kill it here. Yeah, does not even care if he does not have a minion wave anywhere. Will take the tower. Is being 2v1, has popped the ulti. Kaise does come in there, but there's a Viego and a Nautilus suddenly. It's a 3 versus 4. Dredge line onto the Kaise. She's just stunned up. Viego not able to get the final hit though. Does finally get the reset and uses the ulti to get back. So it's going to be a 2-for-1 trade right now, maybe a 3-for-1. Yep, there we go. UAlbany does come out on top there. Good idea from SNHU trying to kind of get that trap 2v3, but the Kaise ult does kind of come in there. Karma able to speed up herself forward with the shield to make it a 3 versus 4. Now Darius knocking on the inhib turret in bot lane. Rakton just desperately trying to dash around and clear this wave as best he can. Yeah, and this gold lead has been pretty steady recently at around 8,000 to 9,000 gold. Most of it on the Darius, but a good amount going on to the Lilia. And even the Hui now, up into 4 kills. At one point in this game, he was 1-4, so good to see that he is able to hold on and really get gold, participate in these kills where he can, and get himself back in this. Do not know exactly what SNHU is going to be planning to do to try and get back into this game, as Darius is finally going to be grouping up to try and secure this dragon, get them his team onto soul point. And yeah, SNHU jungler's not even in the area. They're not even going to try to contest that. Maybe looking just to get a bot lane inner turret for their troubles. But UAlbany immediately pivots into trying to push this mid lane. Ezreal forced to dash over the wall, so he does not get Fae feared, or Hui feared. And yep, Mundo doing Mundo things. Demolish proc for half the tower HP. And there are suddenly 3 members here. This Lilia does not want to be here. Pops the Zanya's hourglass, but you have to imagine that's just delaying the inevitable. Flash though. Great flash to get out of the way of all these skill shots. Doesn't have any movement speed though. Redemption going to heal her up as best it can. And the blast cone going to throw the way into the middle of the enemy team. I don't think that's what he intended to do at all. Darius going to yoink up a double kill for himself, and the Baron has respawned. No jungler, no support. And SNHU is just going to have to look as another neutral objective is taken by UAlbany. And this Baron might be the game ender. Going to really make this split push strategy so difficult to answer. Not a lot of wave clear coming out from this SNHU team. So you have to imagine, yeah, Darius going top lane, the rest of UAlbany going mid lane, just trying to get this Baron buff onto as many waves as possible. Darius was forced to back as he didn't have a wave to push with himself. Gonna try and walk on out, join up with his team again. Just say, yeah, I've got the most gold, I'm just gonna be playing it with my team, make sure that we don't lose any of these 5v5s. Where he does get hooked and chunked by this Mundo, but he doesn't have any other follow-up. loses half his HP still, or doesn't quite have his ulti yet to regen. So he's going to be forced to back up, let that Warmogs take him back up to full HP. But unrelenting pressure out of UAlbany. You have to imagine that this mid lane tower is not long for this world. Redemption to make sure all the team is as full as possible. Lilia is taking over the role of the split pusher. Renekton desperately trying to clear the wave. Viego looking for a flank here, but Darius is playing goalkeep for his more squishy members, making sure that the Viego does not have an easy lane in. That's going to be the first inhibitor falling. Viego does land a stun onto the Karma, who immediately flashes the way, trying to get the root back. Mundo in there, landing his briefcases, chunking these people as best he can. Viego all onto the Karma, gets the first reset. Mundo pops the ulti, just trying to run for it as best he can, but this whale slowing him down desperately. One more briefcase going to force the flash. Another one. Probably going to mean his death. Yeah, that empowered auto just chunked him for 200 HP. And that's a great fight for SNHU. Going to get 2 kills for free. Did lose the mid lane inhibitor, but you have to imagine that they were going to be losing that anyway. So slowing down this push, getting rid of some of those Baron buffs, getting some gold back in the pockets of this Viego, who outside of that early game really hasn't been able to get much done. So we see Darius did try and push a little bit further in just to make sure that there wasn't any waves. SNHU could turn those 2 kills into any sort of objective conversion. Going to be stealing away this red buff, powered red buff. A little tanky, takes a little bit longer than early game, but does give it to the entirety of the team, giving us some more regen, some more damage to everybody. Never a bad thing. Nautilus desperately trying to push out, get this vision line reset so they can hopefully, push out and contest this Dragon Soul that will be coming up in just a little bit. Baron buff should be ending soon. And there it goes. So, no more Baron up minions to push in the base, but those super is going to be doing a fine job applying pressure just by themselves. This Viego is kind of caught out. Darius trying to run him down. He's slept. He's slowed. Forced to ulti away. Kaisa jumps in to try and get the last hit. Not able to get it. Mundo pops the ulti, trying to make as much room for his team as he can, but the team just says bye-bye and leaves him to die. There he goes. Darius ulti. It doesn't matter how much HP you have. It is going to chunk you. Unable to get the stacks onto the way, so he doesn't get the reset, or not the way, the Ezreal, so he doesn't get the reset there, but auto will do just fine after the fact. And you have to imagine that this is going to be an N for UAlbany. Game 2 definitively answered. Great plays from this Darius in the top lane, really just putting the team on his back the entire way, being a menace at all points of the game. As we see the Nexus is being burned down, and there we are, going to Game 3. Alright, welcome back everybody. We are into our final game of this draft. Looks like UAlbany is going to be staying on the red side. We saw in game number 2 exactly why Darius was banned away from UAlbany in game number 1, but SNHU is not going to have to deal with that pick again. Aatrox first to go this time, changing it up from games 1 and 2. Kali will be once again banned by UAlbany, followed by Xerath and Talia. So maybe SNHU is looking for a specific early top pick that they want to protect. Or maybe they just really don't want to deal with another self-sustaining brawler in the top lane. Final ban in round 1 for SNHU. Going to be the Ashe once again. So, Mel does get banned as well. So, Jarvan going to be picked up from SNHU almost immediately. Been banned out in both games 1 and 2, I believe. So, SNHU finally able to get their hands on it. Going to be answered by the Poppy immediately. Great answer into the Jarvan. That Steadfast Presence completely shuts down his flag and drag combo. It's going to be a matter of timing though. It is easier to time than most other dashes because you just kind of wait until he throws out a Z and then you just press W and he can't do anything. He can leave the flag on the ground if he wants to, but it's not like you can actually engage with it. Tristana going to be picked up for a little bit of duo Yordle action, followed by the Caitlyn. So once again, both bot laners going to be picked up early in this draft. And the Seraphine going to be picked by SNHU before it can get banned this time. Does UAlbany answer back with a support pick of their own? Or is that Poppy going into the support role? Potentially. We'll have to see. Deliberations on the UAlbany side. 5 seconds left to pick. Hopefully we don't get another no-pick situation like we did in game number 2. And it's going to be the Nami. Interesting. All right. Nami usually see paired up specifically with Lucian. But Tristana is another character that can utilize that buff pretty well. Just kind of jumping in, getting those attacks in with her attack speed steroid, and then jumping back to safety. You see the Yasuo once again banned by UAlbany, trying to take away some of those melee mid picks. And the Vigar banned by SNHU, trying to take away that scaling more control burst mage option. And the Garen going to follow for UAlbany. Wasn't banned in game 2, I believe, but was banned in game 1. And Gwen going to be banned. All right, so yeah, a lot of these more brawly top laners are going to be taken out of the pool. What does UAlbany want to pick for their 4th, and what do they want to leave for counter? All right, it's going to be the Lux, presumably for the mid lane. Another burst option. Going to have some of that CC. Going to have some of that long-range artillery power that UAlbany's mid laner has been showing that he loves to play with in these last 2 games. But also going to be another pick that does potentially struggle against some melee mid matchups. So we will see what SNHU tries to pick into it. It's going to be the Zed. Another one of those melee AD assassins. Now Zed, a little bit more predictable in his mobility. That ulti will always put him behind you. So Lux will be able to basically guarantee the binding if that happens. But Zed also does have quite a non-committal neutral game. Just able to throw out those shadows, WEQ the wave, get that push in, and hopefully roam to the other lanes. Final pick going to be the Echo. So maybe That will be an Echo top, or maybe we'll even see the flex to Z top. Now, Z and Echo both do have dashes, but they are not stopped by the Poppy W, as they are blink dashes. So, great answer to what should have been a great way to cut down the mobility of SNHU. And this Malphite's going to be the last pick for UAlbany. Quite a bit of AD damage coming out of SNHU, so this Malphite is going to be getting obscenely tanky up in the top lane. We'll have to see if that Echo is indeed going to be going top to maybe giving him a little bit of trouble in the early game. But he should be able to scale nicely, be a nice engage with the Poppy, making sure that this Lux and Tristana can get some good hits in. Though SNHU does have plenty of flanking options, so as long as they do not group up, there should still be plenty of pressure that they can apply to this UAlbany backline. Alright, as we get into champion pick, it's going to be another 3-minute spectator delay, and we will be getting back into the game. Alright, and here we are in game number 3. Did miss the first minute of the game, unfortunately, because we had a little bit of a problem loading in, but luckily it seems like nothing super important happened. So we should be able to be here for all the action. Alright, UAlbany is going to force this Zed back. Make sure he doesn't get those Raptors warded for a third time this series. Though that does mean that Poppy's starting position is compromised, so, you know, effectively the same thing, and saves out on the ward cooldown. Now it is going to be the Echo top, so this Malphite not going to be able to benefit from stacking armor as effectively into his lane opponent as he probably would have liked. So we'll see if he maybe makes a detour into any sort of MR items just for the lane matchup, or if he just decides to truck through it and start stacking that armor immediately. Seraphine Caitlyn, normally a pretty dominant lane, but Tristana just easily able to get the push in almost any matchup just because of her E passive. So as long as UAlbany doesn't get poked too much, they should be able to keep this pressure going in the bot lane. We do see Malphite opt to go for the Dorn's Ring start, so going to be trying to trade a lot more aggressively with that Comet, get that mana back for his Qs constantly, get that mana flow band stacking. Yeah, he's definitely an Echo Malphite lane is not going to be one for extended trades, that's for sure. Jarvan clearing his red, going to get quickly onto this Krugs. Both junglers into the bot side now. We'll see if either of them want to go for any early ganks. Jarvan does have a little bit of a faster clear right now. But we'll see if Poppy can maybe get in position for any sort of counter gank if Jarvan wants to go for it. But he is pinging that he's just going to be wanting to go towards that scuttle. Stun isn't going to land on the Malphite, but low health bars on either side. So as soon as those junglers back... Oh, Jarvan invades and smites away the blue. Big win. Poppy going to be without the blue buff for her second clear and down a full camp of XP. Zed chunking out, getting that electrocute proc onto the Lux. Alright, sorry about that, everybody. We had a little bit of a problem with our production, but we should be back now. Looks like UAlbany was able to pick up first blood onto that Lux. Seraphine, the unfortunate victim. That's going to be big for UAlbany's mid laner, making sure that he is able to keep up with this Zed's pressure. Hasn't quite backed yet to, you know, turn that gold into any sort of items. So right now, Zed is able to just kind of freely push in that wave and do with that pressure as he wishes. Yeah, Lux running low on mana here, just kind of looking to E that wave, maybe hoping to clear this out and back so that she can get her first component item in. Does have that TP, so not really gonna risk losing anything, though Zed might try to play spoiler here. Nope, gonna use the Q just to pressure this wave. Get that under tower so that he can get his back off himself. And we do see, once again, both junglers going down to this bot side. Malphite does have level 6 here, dodges out on the stun. Might look for some sort of trade here, but just decides to take the Qs and the autos. Yeah, despite going into an AP matchup, is still winning this top lane. Even got the Lost Chapter as his first item, so trying to get a little bit more damage into this Malphite top. AP Malphite, not really the best thing you want to just completely itemize into if you're not just playing for fun, but any sort of extra damage does make that unstoppable force just that much more threatening. We do see this bot lane, mid lane pressure going to be converted into the first dragon, but Jarvan does turn around and get the lane gank onto the Nami. Had full summoners, but decides not to use them. Maybe didn't have vision of the Jarvan until it was too late. Does trade for that first objective though. Steadfast Presence going to deny the Jarvan engage. Uses this Zed as a bit of a taxi, but going to be paying about half of her life for it. Lux forced to flash from the Cataclysm, but does not result in a kill. So, lots of pressure, lots of trades going on right now, but neither team really opening up a gigantic lead in the opening minutes of this game. Grub's going to, Grub's going to be the next objective that spawns. You have to imagine that with the pressure that UAlbany's top laner is exerting, that UAlbany should be able to get first move onto this. But if Zed is able to push out this mid wave as he has been doing all game, he should be able to roam up and assist, turning what is potentially a 2v2 into a 3v2. But until the grubs spawn, we will not know. So for now, both teams electing to farm it up. Great blind bubble onto the Seraphine, but there's no vision there, so not really any follow-up to be had. Looks like Caitlyn's going to be back and getting in her first purchase. Tristana probably just going to be pushing one more wave and doing the same. Yep, both mid laners have already used their TPs. Echo still has his. So he is able to get another free base off if he wants to. But now that he has ulti, it's going to be a lot harder for Malphite to just freely pressure him. And wow, yeah, UAlbany, despite what you would think would be the winning top side, just going to completely give up the grubs with no contest. Poppy just going to be clearing her bot side jungle, going to be looking for extra tempo instead of that neutral objective. And when this is the third game in a row now that we have seen that the one team has gotten the grubs, the other team has gotten the first dragon. So that early objective stacking for feats has not really been a reality in any of these games. So by now, in both of our previous games, feats of war had already been earned by UAlbany. So much slower start there. Zed going to shadow under the tower and immediately going to get pushed back in by the Poppy, but there's nothing to stun him off of, so he's able to death mark onto the Lux and kind of just walk on out of there. Does use the cooldown though. Zed ult though, not huge, not a long CD at any point in the game, so not the biggest investment. Did also use his flash though, so that's going to be a much bigger deal. Ooh, another bubble lands on the Seraphine, forcing the flash away from the Nami wave. Tristana could have jumped in there, but didn't want to eat any damage of potentially landing onto a Caitlyn trap or something like that. Just going to take this summoner and dip. Echo, forced to use the ulti. You have to imagine that he's just going to... Oh no, he already used his teleport, so yeah, this base, he's going to be losing this minion wave if he commits to it. Malphite does have his own TP now, so he's going to be looking for a back of his own. We'll see what he decides to go for, what he's going to turn this lost chapter into. It's going to be a Malignance at 10.5 minutes, even before he gets his tier 1 boots. So yeah, he's going to be looking for those ultis almost off of cooldown, you assume. Now, not quite able to tell what Malphite's secondary rune tree is. If he really wanted to go into this pure ult build, he might actually have gone into domination, get some ultimate hunter. Not that he has any kills or assists to give himself any Ult CD stacks, but you know, that's just me theory crafting. Lux still does not have the flash from the last Cataclysm, and she is going to go down. Second kill onto this Jarvan. And yeah, he's going to be going for an Eclipse, going to be much more of a damage threat. In previous seasons, we have seen Jarvan mainly take on that more frontline role, but recently he's really become more of an AD bruiser assassin, just looking to kind of EQ ult a squishy, take them out of the fight as quickly as possible. And we see Lux feeling the full brunt of that combo. Push back onto the Caitlyn, not going to find a wall, so just going to be taking about half of her HP. Dragon is up, so good pressure from the bot lane to maybe turn into a dragon kill. Zed does eat the Lux ult, going to trade back his own ulti in return. Lux doesn't have any more abilities, but Zed doesn't really get much damage. Oh my god, immediately stunned into the wall by the roaming Poppy, and it's going to go down. 2 kills apiece. Still no feats of warfare claimed by either side. Caitlyn barely dodges out on the bubble. That could have potentially been the 3rd kill there. We see Poppy looking like she wants to start this dragon up, get those neutrals stacking. Jarvan is in the area on his Krugs. But bot lane fully pushed in. Zed's not quite out on the map yet. Still respawning, so most likely just going to be a dragon for the UAlbany side. And not a lot of gold lead, but some good pressure coming out from UAlbany, making sure that they get these neutrals going. Next up is going to be the Rift Herald in a few more minutes. So if UAlbany can take that and potentially get one more kill, it's going to be feats for them. You also have to imagine that with this pressure, that they also are going to be getting some turret plating, especially in this Tristana lane. Very good at taking those turret plates if you have a moment to hit the turret with your bomb. Battle over the scuttle does go to the Jarvan there. Pings on to UAlbany's mid laner. Jarvan looking to go in. Does force the flash, but Lux was able to get out of the Cataclysm there. Deathmark not going to be nearly enough damage, but immediately forcing that long cooldown out of this mid laner, making sure that she has absolutely no room to breathe, no sense of safety. Tristana going to jump forward, get a nice trade onto the Caitlyn, half HP, but no real avenue for a kill. So here we go, turret plates have fallen. 14 minutes into the game and no feats have been claimed. But these grubs putting in work onto this mid lane tower, already down to under half HP. And we see, looks like Malphite is going to be going for an MR item next, just for this lane matchup. Echo already finished with that Lich Bane. Huge power spike for him. And until this next neutral objective spawns, probably not going to see too much action around the map. Maybe looking to get some picks onto these flashless carries in Caitlyn and Lux. But outside of that, not going to be much for the people to be fighting over. We do see Jarvan waiting around in this bot side bush of mid. Gonna find the Nami, misses the bubble. Deathmark on her, and she's just gone. Feats of Warfare picked up for SNHU, but it is going to be a turnaround. But it's a 3 versus 2. Lux forced to use the Seeker's Armgarm active, and it looks like it's just going to be another 2 kills picked up. They do eventually get the Zed back, but that's a big fight for SNHU. Opening it up to about a 500 gold lead, and it's probably going to be the first tower too. So yeah, just in that sequence of plays, that's feats going over to SNHU completely. First game of the series where they have gotten the empowered boots. Let's see if they can turn that into even more early game pressure. Poppy still dead for another 2 seconds, so if Jarvan wanted, he could potentially start up this Herald, but he's just going to elect to take the little crab and back, completely ignoring the big one. Lux going to TP out to mid, make sure she doesn't miss too much experience for that death. Despite the 2 deaths, it is up 3 kills to 1 and 20 CS. Tristana just going to Goomba stomp on this Caitlyn. Seraphine really trying to roam around the map with her jungler, get these plays going, but that does kind of leave the Caitlyn exposed. And Tristana, one of the AD carries that is very good at, just jumping in for these quick trades, quick all-ins, and then jumping out to safety if it looks like it's not going to result in a kill. We do see SNHU has 3 members on the top side of the map, looking to start up this Herald potentially. No, they're just going to go for the Lux instead. Cataclysm onto her death mark. Has no flash, no hope. A 5th kill for this Jarvan. 5-0-0. 2 items already at 17 minutes. He's looking to be the raid boss of this game like Darius was in the last one. And yeah, this Lux has been able to get some kills back, so not completely down in gold, but you saw forced to go into that early Seeker's Arm Guard and almost immediately use it and go down anyway. And yeah, that mid lane kill does transfer into another Herald for SNHU. Nami, not going to be knocked up, but still forced to flash that slow from the Jarvan W into the red buff. Just too threatening. Poppy looking for this Caitlyn, but the net's going to get her out to safety. Not quite connecting to the wall. Going to be playing around her traps, trying to run away. Not even proccing the headshot. Doesn't want to slow herself down. Knows she has no hope of really getting any meaningful damage onto that Poppy while she has that Bulwark shield. So just trying to get out, make sure she doesn't donate any more money. Lux once again finds this Jarvan, gets the full combo, only does half his HP. Big blast cone, though, to dodge out on the flag and drag. Saved her life, probably, as there was that Caitlyn ult coming in over the top. So yeah, if you don't have flash, just use your environment as a flash cooldown. Alright, Zed clearing out the vision in this dragon pit. Lots of members from both teams over here. So it's going to be a difficult dragon take for either side. Malphite Echo just kind of on an island, 0-0-0. Both of them almost 20 minutes into this game. Malphite has opened up a huge CS lead, though. So you have to imagine the Echo does just kind of want to get out of this lane as soon as he can. Full combo onto the Lux, tries to get the laser back, but just does not have the HP. That final auto will be enough. Caitlyn gets her first kill of the game. And that should mean a dragon for SNHU. Gonna delay this dragon stacking from UAlbany. Make sure they do not get an early soul. And most likely a bot lane tower. There it goes. So yeah, not quite as many macro choices being made by UAlbany here. Just a lot of tiny skirmishes going the way of SNHU, transforming into these neutral objectives and towers. Still no charge to go down for the side of UAlbany. Stun gonna land onto the Malphite. He has not backed yet, so he has not gotten a full MR item, but he will just slow up the Echo and run away. Gonna back in this bush here. Let's see if Echo is gonna maybe look for a potential stop. A little late on the W there. Gets back, gets his first full tank item completed, so it's gonna be a lot harder for this Echo to kill in these extended trades. Echo does have a bit of the sustained damage that you might not expect out of an AP assassin. Passive on his W does make his autos hurt quite a bit, especially when you get down to lower HP. So, of all the AP assassins that could be going into this Malphite, he probably has some of the best ability to fight him in the long run. As you imagine, Malphite also is just going to be wanting to go for those short QE trades. Udcon has spawned in the bot lane, obviously, as there has been absolutely no action in terms of kills or deaths happening on the top side of this map this game. All jungler focus has been has been zeroed in on this bot and mid lane. Lux does have her flash up, finally. So let's see if she's able to hold on to it for a little longer, or if SNHU is just going to immediately force it again. SNHU has pinged onto the Otacon area. Maybe looking to start it up soon. Jarvan, flag and drag, not landing onto the Lux. Does land the Cataclysm instead, but this time Lux does have teammates to go. Seraphine are going to go on top of it. Big Lux are going to hit both Jarvan and Seraphine, chunking them both below half HP. Going to make sure that SNHU doesn't want to do anything, but the Unstoppable Force is going to land onto this Caitlyn. TP and Flash committed. That's going to be a trade up top lane, but you have to imagine that Otacon will be going down for the side of UAlbany this time. Yeah, Caitlyn did have Flash, or maybe used Flash right before it, was not able to get away from the Malphite. And with a Malignance, there's really not much you can do as soon as the Malphite gets his R on top of you. Jarvan trying to be sneaky on the top side of this Otacon pit is going to be spotted out. Poppy not going to land into the wall, no stun there, but that's 4 members just trying to run down this Jarvan. He's going to have to flag and drag to safety. Even summons the Herald so that he can get a little bit more movement speed to run away. And this does successfully stop the Otacon. He does get stopped by the Poppy W, so he's not going to be able to get out. Eventually does go down, but he stalled the Otacon. UAlbany not going to be taking that objective right now. Now that he's dead, maybe they might try and turn back onto it, but low health bars from the sides of their carries means that they're just going to be backing, healing up, getting those item purchases in. 2 items now onto this Tristana. Has completed that, i.e. Yuntal, so big power spike for her. Jarvan, after the first 2 more damage focus items, is going into a tankier item, making sure he's not going to be blown up, as Poppy does have good answers into him to make sure he's just kind of forced to stay in place and take the punishment. Lux has finished her Zhonya's and Malignance of her own. So that ult cooldown really going to be pretty negligible. You saw her just use it to clear that wave, already almost halfway back. Going to probably be back completely by the time she even hits a minion wave. Not a lot of burst damage out of this build, as she was forced to go for that defensive option early. Cataclysm going to be used onto the Nami. Even after she's used her flash, she has absolutely no options to be getting away from that. Going to be going down 8-6 are the kills. Slight gold lead for SNHU, but definitely not insurmountable. Poppy going to use the empowered Blackstone to try and get onto this Jarvan. Does stun him against the wall, but not enough damage to follow. So Jarvan just going to shrug it off and waddle on back to the river. Now we do see Malphite here with the ulti. As we saw, it does do a lot of damage, though Zed does have options to dodge it, either with his shadows or even going for a cheeky death mark onto the Malphite himself as he gets into range. Echo forced to pop his ulti to get out of that Poppy stun. Will answer with the kill back onto the fish, but it will be a 1-for-1. But SNHU does use this opportunity to start up their second dragon of the game. Another Chem Soul or Chem Drake for themselves. Malphite ulti onto the Jarvan, but he's already used all of his buttons. He doesn't have anything left. This Malphite's just a sitting duck. Does eventually actually get the kill onto the Zed. Doesn't go down himself, and then the Tristana jumps in for the cleanup onto the Seraphine. I thought that was going to be a dead mountain, but he was able to survive just long enough for his team to back him up. 2 kills go over for nothing. Over to UAlbany, evening up 9 kills apiece now. And that gold lead has shrunk down to basically nothing. As second Otacon attempt for UAlbany, you have to imagine that with 3 dead, there's really not going to be any option for this Jarvan to look for anything unless he wants to go for a desperate steal attempt. But no, he's just going to let it go. Otacon, huge neutral objective. The only big neutral objective outside of dragons that gives a permanent buff to fight over. And it will be continuing to scale as UAlbany gets more kills throughout the game. Echo going to be just pushing out this side lane, clearing out some vision. No objective to fight for other than this Baron, but at this point, that's a very risky thing to go for unless you have won a fight decisively beforehand. Poppy does sneak into this bush. Does stun him against the wall after he's already used his E, so Lux is safe from the Echo Blink. Unable to get any sort of stun onto the Lux. Zed is there trying to get as much pressure as he can, but the Poppy successfully peels the Echo engage, even forces the ultimate out of him. Cataclysm onto the Malphite, Flag and Drag to follow the flash. And Seraphine is here for even more lockdown. You have to imagine that this time the Rock will be going down. Does almost get the trade back onto the support. Zed gets stunned up against the wall, so across the map it is a 1-for-2 trade. As the fish did go down off screen. And that does mean that SNHU does have free reign to start up this Baron down to half HP as they saw every single member committed onto that box side. UAlbany doesn't even have vision of this, so let's see if they're even going to potentially suss this out, or if it's just going to be a free worm for SNHU, and it is. Poppy just now behind the Baron pit after the big worm has already gone down. Lux will trade it for a bot lane tower, so not completely for nothing, but that early Baron is going to make UAlbany's lives a little bit more difficult, getting a little bit more pressure onto the map. We do see actually both inner turrets already down in top and mid lane, so really only bot lane going to be an easy push. Though there is that open inhib on top side, so if they want to go for early supers with this Baron buff, they potentially could. And that's the downside of Malphite really wanting to get into these 5v5s, use that unstoppable force as the main source of engage for his team. Really just leaving this Echo free reign in the side lane to push, and the Echo does push fast. Another Flag and Drag onto the Lux, forcing the flash. Going to use the empowered Blackstone to get back over the wall. She is stunned up, going to be forced into the stop loss by the Caitlyn Q, and that means that the Jarvan is just going to get an easy cleanup. Caitlyn will claim kill credit. Yeah, unfortunately Lux just not having the best of games. Zed stunned against the wall, Deathmark onto the Tristana, who's forced to ult him away. Nami W to steal the kill there. But luckily the Tristana did survive for a little bit, but another Flag and Drag will mean her death. Will it be a trade of 80 carries? Poppy desperately trying to get onto this Caitlyn. Gets another E onto her, and the Q auto will be enough. 13-12, gold lead still neck and neck for these teams in game number 3. Flag and Drag going to be stopped by the Poppy W. But still, both team, or SNHU chasing this Poppy to the ends of the earth. You don't have enough Poppy W to stop all these Flag and Drags, but eventually the Lux TP will convince him to back it off. Lux desperately trying to look for something here to justify that TV other than just saving her jungler's life. Maybe just going to get this top lane. Another Flag and Drag onto the Nami. She doesn't have a flash, but she does have a mountain. Cataclysm going to be used to dodge out on the bubble. Going to mean that there is nowhere left for her to run. 6th death of the game. Almost all the decks concentrated onto these squishy mid lane and support characters. Everyone else does kind of have an option to get out of it, either with the Poppy E / ulting the Jarvan out of his own Cataclysm, maybe a Malphite ult, not that you would want to be using that to get out of a Jarvan. Unstoppable Force going to be used onto the Jarvan, so he can't Flag and Drag the Poppy stun to complete the CC chain. That's going to be a 3rd dragon, you imagine, for UAlbany here. Gonna put them onto Soul Point of this Chemtech Drake. Echo, ulti's back into the pit, immediately stunned, forced to flash over the wall. Not sure if that was a fat finger or just not quite knowing where his clone was. Lux gonna dodge out on this Seraphine Q. Would have been the death of her with that. Zanya's getting plenty of use out of the item this game, so glad to see the purchase wasn't completely in vain. Is 3 items now. Working on her 4th, which is going to be a Void Staff. So it does plenty of burst damage. Doesn't quite have a death cap yet, so not as much as she necessarily could. But, you know, staying alive is the #1 way to make sure you keep pumping out your spells. 3 items finished up for the UAlbany AD carry. 3rd item, Lost Whisper. 3rd item still being worked on by this Caitlyn. Does not yet have her IE. As soon as she gets that online, she's going to be chunking a lot more than she is right now. We see 3 items finished up onto this Echo. Quietly farming up a Storm in these sidelines, really turning into a huge threat. Malphite, the only one who can really answer him safely. So he's going to still be looking to get those towers down. Still hasn't picked up that inner bot lane tower. So a bit of standing gold available to him there if he wants it. And we see the 3rd item, Thornmail, coming from the Poppy. A little bit of healing from Seraphine, from that Sundered Sky, I believe it's called, from the Jarvan, and of course Echo just with his ultimate. So, you know, has some healing to reduce, though not as much as I would maybe think. Thornmail, also just, you know, a nice tanky item, especially against the plethora of auto attackers from SNHU. Wow, Lux just jumped on once again. Nothing she can do. Nami gonna follow her. Another double kill for this Echo. Stunned up onto the Poppy. Gonna try and peel people off her as best she can, but that's 4 members of SNHU, and that's gonna be a dead Yordle on the side of UAlbany. And finally, this inner bot lane turret is going to fall. Can they follow it up with another inhib turret of their own? Yeah, and Baron buff has worn off, but SNHU still has quite the pressure in these side lanes. Zad gonna stop this Malphite ulti. Now desperately gonna try and get out of there, as you have to imagine another... Ooh, he's just gonna commit back a TP onto the base as SNHU was looking for the early end. Huge charm onto 2. Both the top laner and bot laner going down. Is this the end? Just out of nowhere, 1 fight in the bot lane, and they're just going to end it there. SNHU, big laser onto 2, but it's not going to be enough. SNHU takes the series in game #3. Wow, I was not thinking that they could end that there. But I guess just the pushing power of Void Grubs and 3 melee or 3 AD auto attackers means that as soon as you get any sort of opening, that's 4 towers and an inhib down. So, UAlbany, feels like that game was just kind of stolen out from under them unexpectedly, but that's just kind of how it goes. Thank you for joining me today. We will be back in a couple weeks with another game of League of Legends, where hopefully UAlbany will be able to take down their challenger. Once again, my name is Jeff. It's been a pleasure commentating for you today.